I would love to introduce our two speakers, two people who had a big hand in making this exhibit, who you, I'm sure, know from many of our great D23 things we've done in the past. So first, I'd like to introduce my old boss, the director of the Walt Disney Archives, Becky Cline. And then I'd like to introduce Mary Walsh, the director of the Animation Research Library for the Walt Disney Studios.
Thanks, Justin. Well, welcome everybody to this chilly December evening. We normally don't feel like it's Christmas, but it's beginning to feel a lot like Christmas to me. When I got up this morning and drove down the 210 freeway, I was looking at the snow on the foothills. It was so exciting. And I believe you live in those foothills,
I live in La
right?
Cañada, so this is just a little hop, skip, and a jump away. It's great.
She had snow in her front yard, probably. So welcome everybody to this exhibit. We are so excited about this being here in Southern California. Our old stomping grounds, literally. I worked here before I came to Disney. Oh, wow. So this is a homecoming for me to be here. Yeah, I was here for 4 years before coming to Disney in 1989, right out of college, and was a library assistant. I used to push a big cart around that had the Gutenberg Bible on it. It was really fun. So I got to read Romeo and Juliet in the first quarto here, sitting in my desk. So it was pretty amazing to work here. But I love Disney, so I came to the Disney studios in 1989 and eventually got a job in the archives in 1993, and I've been there ever since. Mary, where did you start at Disney?
So I've been with the company, excuse me. As soon as I have to speak, I get a frog in my throat. So I've been at the company for 28 years, and my entire career has been with Walt Disney Animation Studios. When I started, I was literally a temp. I started in July of '94, so a month after Lion King hit. So you can imagine what the environment was like at that point in time, the excitement in the studio and what was going on. And I went in to help recruit artists because for the first time in many years, we were doing 2 feature films. We had Hunchback of Notre Dame and Pocahontas in production at the same time. So long story short, I went into production management. Then I went into development. I did all kinds of different jobs within the studio. And I was asked to go over to the ARL about 13, 14 years ago to help digitize the collection, to put that business plan together. And I've been there ever since. It is by far one of the best jobs I've ever had. I love the team I get to work with. We get to do beautiful things like this. And for me, the most important thing is because the ARL is not open to the public, we get to share the artwork in our collection through our original art exhibitions in museums like this at the Huntington. So people who don't get access to it get access to it this way. So it's just an extension of the creativity and the storytelling that we do at Disney Animation. So, and I get to work with Becky and her team and do events like this. So it's just really exciting.
Yeah, it's really fun we have such a collaborative group between the Animation Research Library and the Art Library at WDI, and of course the Walt Disney Archives and all of our other partners in libraries and facilities around the company. We all work together very closely to help create things like this. This is a very special exhibit. Both Mary's team and my team at the archives have done our own exhibits. You've seen many of the things we've done at the expos or some of the traveling exhibitions that Mary's team has done. But this one is it's quite unique actually, because someone came and pitched this to us and asked for our help with it. And Mary, you want to talk a little bit about how it started?
Yeah, so Wolf Butchard, who is the curator who came to us with the idea, and I was going back in my emails to prepare for this so I had the dates right. We met with him for the first time in January of 2018, and he pitched the idea. Wolf has a PhD. He's done a lot of research and study on the French decorative arts, but he's a huge animation fan. And he told the story the other night at another event here, that he was sitting having dinner with some friends of his and going on and on and on about Disney animation and how there's connective tissue with the French decorative arts, because all of those different workshops that created those beautiful artifacts, they were collaborative efforts. So you had hundreds of craftspeople working towards one creative goal, which is the same thing for Disney animation. And so then he started really picking apart the films and then the motifs in those films that kind of connect with the French decorative arts. And we sat down with him, and he's very excited. He's very knowledgeable, and we all said yes. Yeah. And it's been great. It took a little bit longer because of COVID, but then that accumulated in the show that opened at the Met in New York, where Wolf was originally in London. Then he got a new position at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. It opened there in December of 2021. Then it moved to the Wallace collection in London in April of 22, and now it's here at the Huntington.
And it's a really amazing exhibit because it's a little bit different in each venue. It was quite large at the Met. Now, I didn't get to see it at the Met. Mary saw it, and I think Mike Vargo said he saw it. So they can tell you a little bit more about it if you're interested. But then when it moved to the Wallace, it was a little bit different. And it's great because it was very collaborative between the three venues. They actually shared assets. So some of the things that are in here that you'll see tonight are collection pieces of French decorative art and things from the Huntington's collections, where the Met had some of their own and the Wallace had some, and they kind of swapped them around and shared. And so this is a very collaborative exhibition, not just with Disney and the Met and Wolf's group, but between the venues themselves, which is really unusual and lovely to experience and to work with all of them.
Yeah, each of the individual curators, Melinda here at the Huntington, Helen at the Wallace, and then Wolf at the Met, they all brought their unique understanding and perspective, and especially their knowledge base of what they have in their collection. So every single venue has its own personality. The story is the same throughout, but they each bring something a little bit different and unique. And because the footprint of each of the venues are different, so it's set up a little bit differently. The wall graphics here are different than they were in the Met, which is different than they were in the Wallace. So it really speaks to, I think, the individuality of the museums that the exhibit is in, but then also it brings it all together in a very collaborative form. And they worked really well together and they helped each other. Wolf did an amazing job on writing the catalog that is really, really in-depth and really insightful. He talked to a lot of people, including Don Hahn and a lot of the animators, Glenn Keane. And the catalog itself is a beautiful work of art because of the art in it, but just the text that's in there and the deep dives that Wolf took, it's just really interesting, and the connective tissue between these two art forms, which I had never thought of before. I don't think Becky had either. And then when Wolf came to us and then he really laid it out in the catalog, it's just, I'm so excited about this, so proud that we got to do this with these institutions, and so excited that you're all here tonight. You get to see it firsthand.
Yeah, I second Mary about the catalog. It's gorgeous. If you're interested in getting it, they have it at the gift shop here at the Huntington. But it's a beautiful piece, and we worked really closely with Wolf on of course the text and the back history of Walt Disney and his interest in specifically, one of the things I got to work with him, he didn't know anything about Walt's interest in miniatures. And so I was able to explain all about Mrs. Thorne's rooms at the Chicago Art Institute and Treasure Island and all of that. And so he really got excited about that and took a deep dive into that, and then worked with him on some things that Walt was envisioning back in the 60s for while he was developing Cal Arts. He was actually thinking of kind of a Bauhaus type of art studio. And so I got to share that with Wolf. So that ended up in the catalog. But so it's really fun. So he mined the collections, not just for the visuals, but also for the history. So it's a beautiful catalog, and it was fun to work on.
And then the Walt Disney Family Museum actually loaned some of the miniature collection in their collection to this, so you'll see it inside as well too. So that was something that, because of Wolf's connection and speaking with Becky and what he learned about Walt's interest in miniatures, it probably would not have been in the show if that conversation hadn't happened and the collaborative effort behind it all.
Yeah, and speaking of other people who have loaned things, we don't have anybody here representing the Walt Disney Imagineering Art Library, but the IRC loaned some books, so there's some original storybooks in this version of the exhibit that were on loan from the IRC that were in the collection that Walt brought back in 1935 from his grand tour of Europe. And so it talks about that and how they inspired Walt. And then also there's some great art from the art library at WDI with castles, because castles were a big thing. There's a lot of inspiration for fairy tale castles, and some of the grandest pieces in this exhibit, in fact the main piece that they're showing here, which is the pink castle Sèvres jar, is I think it's an incense. Is it incense? It's not a burner, but it's an incense. Potpourri. It's a potpourri.
And they were meant to be used. And the vases that are here are incredible. And the curators told us the other day that they have not been in the same space in over 250 years.
Wow.
So they were owned and separated, but they're in amazing condition. So it's just in the way it's set up with the artwork of the castles in the background from Imagineering, and it's just amazing.
and beautiful original art. And because this is such a fine art museum, what's lovely is that they're actually loaning the original Herb Ryman. So when you see the Herb Ryman drawing on the wall, that's the real one. And we're so glad that it's here so people can see it up close and enjoy it. So their thanks to WDI for all of that. They did a lovely service by donating their time and to loaning these objects. So pretty cool. Don Hahn wasn't able to be with us tonight. We had asked him, but one of the things that we chatted with Don, and Don worked very hard with Wolf, not only talking about the animation of Beauty and the Beast, which there's a great deal of Beauty and the Beast in this exhibition, but he made a very special attempt at helping out, and he was able to call Angela Lansbury and asked her if she would record the introduction to their audio guide. So she did, and sadly we lost her very recently, but it was the very last thing she did. So, or at least, you know, in media.
Yeah.
And it's lovely. It's absolutely beautiful. So if you get a chance to listen to the audio guide, she did a really great job, and that was so kind of them, and she was happy to do it for Disney. So that was really nice.
Yeah. It was such a special add to it.
Yeah. So I think that's probably about it. We're going to be here, so I know it's cold out here, so we'll let you go in and see it for yourself. And I highly recommend look at the art, but definitely read the text panels, because there's so much great information, and the connections between the art, the decorative arts, and Disney's animation is truly astonishing. And there's some really fun things in there about the development of Beauty and the Beast that you may not have known. And, you know, look for the couch. I love the couch.
Yes.
And one other little note, we talked about there being differences between the three venues. The swing, which was an important piece in the early development of Beauty and the Beast, is a Fragonard piece of art that is in the Wallace collection. And so when this exhibit was at the Wallace, it was on display. But it turns out the Met has a version of the swing by a different artist, and so does the Huntington. So the one you're going to see tonight is the Huntington's version, a girl on a swing. It was a big thing in the 17th century, in the 18th century.
There's a really good story behind that. So Lisa Keene, who was the head of backgrounds on Beauty and the Beast, she was part of a very small group of people. Am I getting feedback?
Yeah,
Can you hear me
bit,
okay?
yeah.
She was part of the small production team early on for Beauty and the Beast, who worked in London at the Good Street studio, and the Wallace literally is blocks away from that. So they would go to the Wallace for inspiration, and so Lisa had seen that, and so that was an idea that was pitched early on that didn't stay in the film, but she always loved that idea so much that there was a piece that she did for Tangle that didn't end up staying in the film. But if you remember in Frozen, when Anna goes through that hall of portraits and the girl on the swing, so it finally made its debut there in that film. So that nugget of inspiration was with Lisa Keene from like 1988, 1987. So the amount of inspiration that one piece of art can create for an artist, and how they weave that into what they do, and how many years later, it's such a great fun story, and then you kind of see it come to fruition.
Yeah. Lots of fun. So there's lots of fun things to see. So we're going to give you your time back to go in there, get warm, and enjoy the Inspiring Disney exhibit. It's pretty special.
Thanks
so
for
much
coming.
for coming.